it's the autumn that is the key to the entire cycle, because what happens is we have such high energy in our summer when we're ovulating, exactly like you state, that we can steamroll through the autumn and winter. Then you get to spring and you burnt out because you steamrolled through your sacred time. And
Mhm.
you have to do that a ton of times until you come into cyclical awareness and say that autumn is the most holy time of the month, because this is where I have to find a way to slam on brakes.
Hi there. Welcome to the Aligned Living Podcast. I'm your host, Kathleen Galatly, and I'm super excited to have you join us. In these episodes, we're going to have some heart-to-heart conversations with experts, everyday wellness enthusiasts, and, well, anyone with a story to share about their journey towards a more balanced and harmonious life. Welcome to the Aligned Living Podcast, where well-being meets wisdom, and the journey is just as important as the destination. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Aligned Living Podcast. My name is Kathleen Galatly. I'm your host, and here for another super exciting, inspiring conversation that I've really been looking forward to having. We're on episode 23, which is also exciting. And thank you to those who are tuning in and listening, to those who are maybe watching this on YouTube. I always find the YouTube videos quite fun, so you actually get to see our faces and the expressions that we have, because there's some interesting topics covered during these conversations. And yeah, just a warm welcome to everyone who is here. And the biggest and warmest of welcome, Janaki, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your time. I know you, I know the world of as we were just talking about this before we clicked live, about the courses and the admin and the decisions and the being a business owner, but also a facilitator and balancing all of that. And so I'm just really, really grateful that you have put this in your schedule. And I just know this is going to be a super invaluable share. So thank you so much. I am going to actually give the floor to you, as we kind of always do in these conversations, to just give a little introduction to yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and then we can kind of just segue a little bit into a little bit more of the past, a bit of your upbringing, and the question that I always like to ask: what was your aha moment growing up when you thought, something is different? I'm seeing life perhaps through different lenses.
Hey, Kathleen, thank you so much. I'm excited to do this. This is my third podcast, and I love them. I absolutely love them. So my name is Janaki, and I run the She Academy, and the She Academy stands for Sacred Healing Education. And it's a community really of women that come together and learn to be very powerful facilitators of women's wellness. And the beauty of the She Academy is that we stay in community and we support each other in our own little ventures. It's I always see it as an organism. So I'm the director of an organism, which is weird. So would I be the nucleolus? And yeah, that started in lockdown, because before that I was running a yoga business called Yoga Mama. And then I moved over from full-time pregnancy yoga to full-time womb healing work, and then training womb healers. So here we are today. I train yoga teachers in sacred feminine yoga. That's my background, working with pregnancy and birth for 10 years in a birthing clinic. So I've learned about the sacred feminine, and I channel her into my yoga and my yoga teacher trainings, and into the women's wellness facilitator trainings that we run.
Mm, mm. Also connected, just like
So much the web weaves, right? Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And tell us a little bit more about the younger you. Growing up, where did you grow up? Where were you born? What was your, it's always so interesting for me to hear people's stories and how, things that happened in the past in that time might not have seemed relevant. And when you look back now, you're like, I can actually see myself through all these phases in my life and how that has led me to who I am today.
I only had one phase and it was always rebel. Like I came out rebel and I was rebel until maybe like 5 years ago that just started to taper off a little bit. But yeah, I grew up in Joburg and I lived all over. I was born East Rand, went overseas for a couple of years, came back West Rand, settled in the north. Went back overseas for 8 years, came back to the north of Joburg. Yeah, so that's my life. I was always a traveler, and I still am a bit of a gypsy, I guess, a rebel gypsy
A rebel
with a cause.
gypsy. I really relate to that. I feel like I was also definitely the rebel in my family. Often painted, I think, with the stereotypical the black sheep. And the older I get, the more I realize that it's not generally the black sheep. The black sheep is actually like the rainbow sheep, in most circumstances. When was can you remember an aha moment, growing up when you were younger, or maybe teens or early 20s, or when did that kind of arrive for you?
I don't think I realized when I was growing up because I was always just so confident in my rebelliousness that I just, I just thought this was life. But I do remember when I was living in the UK, I had a moment in a restaurant where something happened. There was a table that was busy, and we were with a couple of friends, and I just knew that we were going to sit at that table. And suddenly the table cleared and we sat there. But it happened in a very like, I knew it before it happened, and then it happened. It was this strange experience. It was the first time I stood back and I was like, wait, how did I know that? How
Mm.
did I know this was going to happen? That was, I think, the first interesting moment where I started to acknowledge, okay, so these things that I felt my whole life are real. And then I bounced it off my friends and they were like, yeah, we know that about you. And I was like, okay. Um, but I think my biggest aha moment was when I did my yoga teacher training after traveling through India. I went to Shivananda Ashram in upstate New York, upstate in the mountains there where like Dirty Dancing is filmed, the Catskill Forest. And I was in an ashram, and it was day one of the training that we were with the swamis and we were having satsang and we were being, initiated into our yogic lifestyle for the next month. And it just something in me cracked wide open. And I just ran outside and like knelt down to the ground and I'm the daughter of an Afrikaans priest, so me and religion don't go so well together. But I kneeled down and I prayed for the first time in I can't remember how long. Genuinely felt a connection with the divine. And it was mad because I had this interesting thought like, I now have something to pass on. It was
Mm.
such a strange experience. I'd been in a 7-year relationship anyway, but there was this distinctive, like, I really have a purpose now. I now have something to pass on. And I was pregnant like 2 months later.
Sure.
Like it was like I just called my child in and had my awakening all in one moment.
Sure. I'm gonna, yeah, I want to use that as a segue so we can get kind of straight into the belly of the questions that I actually sent you beforehand. I'm so interested and inspired in the work that you're doing. It's very aligned with aligned living. And Yeah, I'm fascinated. We're gonna have to do a part two because I want to go into those 10 years at the birthing clinic with you as well at some point, because that is just a whole other conversation. Today, I'm going to use this as a little segue with you going into this work, and you sharing a little bit more about your journey into feminine mentorship. And perhaps you can take us through a bit of a journey of how you got into from the yoga training into the sacred feminine yoga, and how that has taken you into feminine mentorship, as well as the work you do with cyclical awareness, and yeah, how you bring in all those things together, and what was kind of the moment where you went like, and you said in lockdown now, but how was that birthed?
Okay, cool. So, I mean, I became pregnant almost immediately after doing my yoga teacher training. So, and I was living overseas at the time in Ireland. When I came back to South Africa, I just knew I wasn't going back into corporate. I'd been working in investment banking administration. And so yoga was what I had, but I had been pregnant. So immediately it was like, well, I'm going to make yoga my full-time work. And so I started a business there and then. And the business side of things just came really naturally to me. I mean, I had been in marketing in London. I had I don't know, I've got a drive, a tenacity within me. And so I just put everything together. And so the business side of me was born. And then after 10 years of running the Preggy Yoga business, um, lockdown overnight, I can't teach anymore. I've got to go online. And I was like, maybe 10 years I've had enough of yoga. I just want to transition a little bit um, to the womb healing work that had opened up for me. There's just so much womb healing work opened up through the red tent, that because the pregnancy yoga obviously led to miscarriage, abortion, then sexual trauma, the fertility. It just takes you on a journey of its own. So then I had to now try and sell one business and transition into another business. And that's kind of the beginnings of the She Academy, the full-time womb healing work and women's wellness work, to be honest. So this business persona came through the sacred feminine. She led me. I was led by the sacred feminine in my life's journey and even in my business journey. And then it was year before last, I just moved to Cape Town, and um, there's this term they used in when they met me in the training. I decided to do a Brené Brown leadership training, and they call me the reluctant leader. Like, I have no desire to lead anyone or anything. I just want to teach yoga and help with women's healing. And so it became apparent through my work with the Red Tent that I was being called to be in some position of leadership. And so I did that training. And then afterwards, um, another then I realized that I needed to do some type of business training for all the facilitators that I've been training, because they trained as healers, but they can't launch themselves further in their business than that. So it became apparent that I needed to launch a business training. But, I can't separate my spirituality from who I am. So it had to be a spiritual business space. It couldn't be masculine. It had to be feminine. It had to stand for the values and principles that I stand for, which is the sacred feminine. And so then another course came my way from the Red School, who've been doing Red Tent and cyclical aware work. They've been doing it. I've been doing it since 2015, and they were doing it since about 2009 when I got pregnant. So they are the like pioneers of menstrual awareness. But I didn't know about them until much later, and they had developed a course called Cyclical Aware Business. So I went and did this course, and it just brought all the pieces of me together. Everything just fell in place. To understand how to guide healers and wellness professionals to work in business in a feminine way that nurtures and nourishes them at the level of their soul. So how can I, how can I live peacefully through yoga, through my cycle awareness, and pace myself in a way that I don't burn out and still make profits? And it all just came together in the menstruality mentorship pods, which is not, you don't even have to be menstruating. I'm training a couple of people who are like beyond that already. So the mentorship just was part of my journey and came by accident and ended up being extraordinary.
Mm, mm. I I want to ask on that topic because I think for a lot of women, especially women who might only be stepping onto their cyclical awareness journey now, and only just starting to find that sacred connection, that feminine connection to their menstrual cycle, as you say, if they're past their menstrual cycle, still connection to the body, to being a woman, and that very hard, what would you call it? Almost the contradiction of business as we've always been told it to be, and this masculine and this drive and this force and this push. And one of the questions that I put out for you was, what are some of the misconceptions or challenges that women face when it comes to embracing their natural cycles and incorporating that into their professional lives?
Yeah. The biggest challenge is obviously the stigma. People are just so indoctrinated that your cycle is inconvenient because my mood change and I don't have time to be dealing with different moods. I don't have time to be going to like change my tampon or whatever. Like I've got to get on with life, especially if that you're in corporate space. It's or even teaching yoga. Like I've got to get on with it. I've got to make an income. And so this thing becomes this inconvenience. And that kind of then overshadows the magic within us. And so we've already then lost touch with the feminine in us because we forget that we're magic. We forget that we hold magic inside of us. And we forget that the cycle is the very thing that makes us feminine. And we are denying that. So we're denying who we are. Then you have PMS, painful cycles, but why? Because you're denying who you are at the root level. So as soon as we start to embrace the cycle as something magical and learn her secrets, learn her mysteries, learn how we are in rhythm to her, well, then the tables turn. Now I'm not denying my existence and my life. Now I'm learning how to flow in harmony with who I am. And then my life will also flow in harmony. Does it make sense?
From the inside out. From the
Yes.
inside out. I would love to just a little question that came to mind now. When you first started your cyclical awareness journey, I'd be interested to know because, we go through the winter and the autumn and the summer and the spring and all the archetypes. And I think it's very natural to almost tend to lean more into one or understand more of the other or connect more with one. Where do you think which part of your cycle was perhaps the part that you could really connect to first? I'm assuming for a lot of women, it might be winter, it might be bleed, it might be menstruation. I know for me, my journey has been very big in exploring my luteal phase because of my everything. I tend to want to just pump the follicular for as long as I can and almost like hold on to that like energy and powering forward and that bit of the up that you can sometimes feel, and knowing that the luteal phase can actually be quite long and that you can actually be in a more subtle way of receiving and giving and doing, a little more steadfast, a little more grounded. That's kind of been my fun part of my journey is actually trying to connect with all the parts of my cycle instead of just kind of being like, oh, it's my bleed of 7 days or whatever the case might be. And then the rest of it, whatever, I'll wait till my calendar says it's my bleed again. And where it's all playing this role together. So I'd love to hear just a little bit of insight into you and maybe your personal experience with that.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when I started working with cyclical awareness, there was no womb anything on Instagram. There was no womb anything on the internet. There was no womb anything in 2015 anyway, except the Red School. And so I didn't know about seasons. All I had was my body guiding me. Like I had an initiatory experience into cyclical awareness from a lady working with blood wisdom with the Hopi people of the Hopi prophecy. And I had a bit of an awakening there. That's a whole nother story. But it was my body initiated me into cyclical awareness. Some days I was driving while I was cycling in the early days, and I had to pull over my car because just so much information was coming through me. So my awareness was always tied to the cycle, as you say. And I had no idea of any other season. Like I just would go into deep, deep ceremony and deep, deep journey with the cycle because the cycle was initiating me. And it was only like maybe 2 years ago that I heard about seasons, and it was someone that I trained actually. And like I knew a little bit about seasons. It's in my training, but it's just like a little passage. So for me, the seasons were completely obscure until I started working a cyclical aware business. And so working now for the last year intensely with my team in She Academy and using cyclical aware business as a map to living and to running a successful business without burning out. It's exactly like you say, it's the autumn that is the key to the entire cycle, because what happens is we have such high energy in our summer when we're ovulating, exactly like you state, that we can steamroll through the autumn and winter. Then you get to spring and you burned out because you steamrolled through your sacred time. And you have to do that a ton of times until you come into cyclical awareness and say that autumn is the most holy time of the month, because this is where I have to find a way to slam on brakes. But if a Ferrari is going down the highway 100 miles an hour, it can't just suddenly go to first gear, like from fifth gear, whatever the case is. I don't even know how Ferraris work, but but in my car, I can't just go from fifth to second. And that's what you have to do. You have to create, I call it the key. You have to find the key. You have to work with the key. You have to slow yourself down, especially as a business person or a generator in human design. You have to find that moment where I'm going to respect my autumn so that I don't burn out this cycle like I did last cycle. And then what that looks like is putting down, like, because you will find that at the end of summer, you have 1,000,000,000 to-dos because you had all the energy to do that. Like men have every day, right? Because they don't cycle 28 days, they cycle 24 hours with the sun. So every day they've got fresh energy and it goes on like that forever for them. We don't have that. So suddenly we've been generating all that energy of the sun. And now we're crashing because our luteal's coming, our lining is starting to get thick, and we can't keep up. And now we start hating ourselves because life is so hard for me. It's in that moment that you have to turn your computer off, turn your phone off, and go and surf me. Or whatever the case is, because like that is the key to the entire cycle. This autumn is the time where we start to honor our boundaries, courage, and discernment. Like we really, really lean into our boundaries. I've got a short fuse, so that is my inner critic telling me what people or situations I have to cut out of my life. Like it's a time for cutting the bullshit. Courage. Because I've got such a short fuse, I have the courage to tell anyone to take a hike because I'm like allowed to be selfish right now. I'm giving myself permission. And discernment, your inner critic is so loud when you are going into your luteal that you just know what is not in alignment. It's a really, really powerful time only if you do that great big stop moment. If you don't do that great big stop moment, you're screwed. It's really a key in business as well, because I can tell any one of my team members and they can tell me that they're in their autumn and we all just know. 2 weeks, lay off. Like, let her be. Let her do her thing. If you've got a long list of to-dos from her, they can wait till the end of her next spring. And it's amazing how much we get done in a week and a half, end of spring, summer. But we all respect each other's autumn and we lay off. And if they're grumpy, we like know why. And we respect them and we treat them with a greater level of kindness because that's what they need. So, yeah, I don't know if that helps you. That's a whole long story.
Yes, that was a fabulous answer. That was incredible. I want to bring in the word balance here and the concept of balance, and in context, I guess, of the modern professional woman, and I'm sure a lot of your answers are going to overflow into one another because it is also connected. But I think a lot of women have this pressure on them to live a balanced life. You know, you got to find balance, you got to find balance, you got to find balance. And I know what something that helped me in changing my understanding of the concept was to switch out the word balance for the word harmony, and to be like, instead of trying to rig my life for things to which I think will mostly be from ego or look balanced or come from a mental space instead of a body or a soul space, is to ask, not is this something that I can check off to be like, this keeps me in balance, but rather, is this something that's allowing me to remain in harmony internally, or is this disrupting my harmony? And for me, that's where it comes in of like, am I balanced or am I aligned? All these words that can, I guess, sometimes mean the same thing, but I guess, yeah, I would love your insights on the whole concept and how that affects the modern day professional woman, and yeah, how they're all, you know, potentially trying to achieve this thing called balance.
Yeah, the key words that they use through Sophie at the Red School is sustainable flow. Like, is my flow sustainable? Like, to just constantly be in awareness of sustainable flow. So the key is overwhelm. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm not honoring sustainable flow at all. And yeah, I'm probably feeling overwhelmed because I didn't take that key big stop moment in my autumn. Because if I took that key big stop moment in my autumn, I would have come back from my surf to look at my to-do list and I'd be like, it's actually all right. Everything's fine. It's not serious. You know, I would have found sustainable flow for myself, but we just don't. We've never been programmed to take that big stop. So I don't know. I don't know that it answers exactly what you're looking for. I'm just looking at my notes to see if I've got any other insights around that to share. I just feel like sustainable flow, overwhelm, the way to your question was, what is balance? Yeah, I think I'm done there.
No, that's
Yeah.
that's perfect. That's perfect. And I would love to hear a little more about how you bring this all together in your program, kind of how that works, what what is the program pulled together with? Is it a lot of theory? Is it practical? Is it kind of how do you bring that all together? In what way is the program offered? And if you had to almost describe like, who is this program for? Yeah.
I think practical strategies for bringing this into everyday living is, first and foremost, you need to understand what conscious cycling is. Like, you know, I don't believe, just because that was my journey, right? And I only ever teach from my experience. I don't teach from someone else's experience or stuff I've read. So, or heard. So for me, like, get to know what conscious cycling looks like for you. Get to know what conscious bleeding is for you. Once you understand yourself, because the bleed will teach you who you are. You know, that's why you have the expression, go with the flow. Like, once you understand yourself at the level of your cycle, you can probably then start to understand yourself at the level of the bigger cycle, of the different phases of the cycle. And I think once you understand yourself that way, then it becomes really potent for you to infuse this into the other areas of your life. So for me, that's the first practical part, is to get to know your cycle. And then, you know, I've even written down in preparation for your questions, like,
take a breather and explore the Aligned Living on-demand video library, along with our exclusive membership perks. Plus, our YouTube channel is already up and running, offering even more wellness content. Your path to holistic living is just one click away. Visit our website to learn more. And now, let's return to our inspiring discussion.
the people you work with need to also work cyclical awareness. I find it so different when I'm working with the She Academy team. Are all made up of She Academy facilitators, and everyone has gone through cyclical awareness, and everyone is learning about cyclical aware business. And so we just work in harmony. We're never out of whack. We're never snappy with each other. We're never burning out. If we did, it's our own thing we need to go and look at, because definitely everyone gave you the space you need, if you asked for it, and if we were aware of it. But you know, so I find that's the most practical thing you can do is, you know, if you're working with your designer or your content creator or your, like, whoever's in your team, if they're working in a cyclical, I mean, even your partner, if they understand where you are in the bigger scheme of things, it's a game changer to self-respect and mutual respect. Kindness, compassion. Now what we're doing is we're living what I call the feminine model of business. And we want to know how we're going to change the planet and how we're going to change business. Feminine model of business.
Oh. I'm going to take that to the next question of, you know, what do you believe is the future of feminine mentorship and wellness practices, and particularly in the context of empowering women in their personal and professional lives? What do you believe is the future of it?
Yeah, I wrote, feminine model of business is the obvious way forward. It really is the obvious way forward to honor the space between the cycles. You have to honor, people are fixated on summer, autumn, winter, spring, but that's not, like, maybe that's a level that you start out at, but that's not the key. The key is the space between, like in yoga, right? We know the breath is key, but the deeper you go into pranayama, the deeper you go, you understand that it's the kumbhaka, the space between the breaths, that hold the magic of expansion or surrender. And it's the same with our cycles. If we honor the space between the seasons, that becomes a place for us to either expand and surrender or to fuck out, like, completely. You know, if you didn't honor that. Because if I'm just breathing, like, there's no space between, but if I'm breathing, there's infinite expansion. And then I exhale. And at the end of the exhale, There's infinite surrender that opens up. And it's exactly the same in our cycle. So I think the future and how this helps for women's empowerment is that we can work peacefully at a beautiful pace to be more profitable in self-respect, and the cycle is the key. But if you're not cycling, if you've had a hysterectomy, or if you perimenopause or menopause, you still cycle energetically. You still have access to the same cycle, and that's a whole nother science in itself.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think it's very exciting. And for me, having just employed someone for the first time last year, beautiful Josie, she and I have, over the last months working together, also really started like really bringing that in, and me being able to say to her, like, listen, Josie, actually for the next 3-4 days, in fact, give me this week. I need this time. Like, there's nothing, the world is not going to fall apart if I don't get to this. And she just being like, you know what, I've got you, I'll hold you, let me run this part in this bit. Or if, she's going through a certain cycle, certain phase. And what I find that is when we use the cyclical awareness of the menstrual cycle to, like you say, bring more of that understanding and kindness and compassion to what another woman is going through, it extends beyond the menstrual cycle. It extends to everything else that she's also experiencing in her life, whether it be motherhood, whether it be grief or loss, whatever the scenario, and that it actually becomes like this doorway of such a greater depth of understanding someone else's experience and being able to hold that with like patience and kindness and capacity. And that's been really, really beautiful for me, because I come out of a very intense production background where I was always the only woman in the boardroom. And I had to work my little butt off to make sure that I was always at the top of my game, because if I'm not, then I'm gone. And I had to fight even harder to try and stay there and push myself even further. And even though that was years ago, I can still feel that in me. I can still feel that programming in me. And so every now and then when I feel like I'm getting into hustle and bustle, like we're supposed to be getting things done, like there's all those like nice long to-do lists that you created for yourself when you were inspired and you were in your flow and you were channeling and you were like, yes, yes, yes. And you've got that list. And then suddenly now you go into a different phase and you're like, but now I don't have energy to do any of the things that I was inspired to do, and to understand that. But maybe giving yourself that freedom to then let that just almost, you speak to embodied wisdom as well, and creating from lived experience, teaching from lived experience, allowing the things that come to you, through you, for you, to just settle for a little bit. And when you move into the next kind of energetic power phase, be able to push yourself forward and to move forward into the action stage. So it's been a massive learning for me, and I feel like I'm still like a really like small little baby in this journey, and I'm really loving it. I would love for you to share. We spoke about, I think, some practical advice that you perhaps have for women who are either already on this journey or maybe just starting off on their journey. I know you mentioned now, number one is, get connected to your cycle. Your menstruation is a good place to start. But I was wondering if you have any other advice, because again, like you say, it's through lived experience that we learn these things, but it's also through meeting someone like you who becomes an expander for women who've never delved into this world before, who we might have just trodden the path clear a little bit, for other women to learn from.
I'm still just so deep with what you said about letting it settle a little bit. You know, I feel like that is a meme that should go on every woman's wellness space so that they can share it with all their girlfriends and everything. Like, just let that settle a little bit. Let everything settle a little bit between moments, you know. Yeah, I think I can still maintain the most practical thing you can do is come into awareness of your own conscious cycling. And the next thing you can do is to try and live that with the people around you.
Mm, mm,
It's
mm.
just a game changer. Do you have any other practical sort of things in mind that you'd like me to speak into? Like, do you have an
Yeah,
example?
perhaps if you'd like to maybe share, I'm always fascinated by other people and especially other facilitators. And you were saying how you're holding space for about 100 people every single day. And how do you hold yourself? What are perhaps
Ah,
of your
I'll
rituals?
tell you a funny story.
Some of your rituals or practices, and how do you find those moments to just let things be?
Lovely. Ritual. Ritual. Ritual is the most powerful part of a woman's life. I've actually just done a post on it on the She Academy's Insta and my um, Facebook business page, Janika Ashira She Academy, like on ritual. Like, so a friend messaged me this morning. She's done the facilitator training and the sacred feminine yoga training. She's part of the She Academy team. She's helping me to train the trainer so they can come on board and train within the She Academy. She messages me. She's like, "You're really in your flow at the moment. Do you have a calendar of things you're posting?" Or I was like, "Babe, I'm actually falling apart right now. I'm hanging on by a thread, and I didn't think I would be able to get out of bed this morning. I'm like overwhelmed, right? Because I didn't honor my autumn 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
ago. I'm now in my summer, but I'm taking it easy. Um, but I steamrolled through my autumn course launches, blah, blah, blah. And I never do that. And I did it. And so I'm paying emotionally the price at the moment. You know, the things that keep me going on a personal, practical level um, are to, like, I do a couple of things. Ritual, it anchors me to the earth and to my work because I work through spirit, right? So or through existence. I heard someone recently say that call it existence. I work with existence. So every day I will have my cup of cacao and open all the windows. I will go down. I've got a little tree and I give it a glass of water because that's me honoring what I belong to and where I live. And if I don't do that, then I think I'm the be all and end all, and everything becomes a bit more selfish, you know? So I honor creation, I honor existence. I have my mantras playing in the morning, protection mantra, Mahamrisham Jaya mantra every morning. So that just sets me vibrationally at the right tone. I light my candle, my incense. You know, I just move with conscious awareness through my morning.
Mm,
And, you know, if I think back to all the times that I've spent in India, like you'll always see that from any rooftop anywhere, you know.
mm,
It's just the women start the day with such intention and such
mm,
prayer. It really does set the tone for the way you live. So I think ritual is at the heart of absolutely everything I do.
mm, And it's in such contrast with a life that most women are living, with this get up and go, like wake up, check the phone, drink the coffee, grab the kids, drive here, drive there, do this, do that. And I mean, the amount of times that I hear women saying, I can't come to yoga because I don't have time. Or, oh, I wish I could swim in the ocean more, I don't have time. And I found myself this week, I'm in a very similar space to where you are. I've not honored my boundaries. I'm running an online course. I've had retreats. I've had like a million billion things, and just being like, it's okay. Like, I'll honor the next time I need to rest. But like this time I don't have to honor it. Like, I can push through. And getting to a place where I was like, my calendar, there isn't even a little gap in between what I'm doing on my calendar. And I was like, I don't even have time to go swim today. Like I'd have to go swim at 8 o'clock tonight if I wanted to swim. And I was like, no, you have an entire day to go swim. You've chosen to do these other things instead, or whatever the case might be. And yesterday I had a very good talk with a friend of mine, Lisa. She was actually on the podcast as well. And she is the woman who helped me on my transition off my psychiatric medications. I was on psychiatric medication for 10 years for bipolar diagnosis. And I've now been off my meds for over a year, and bring on stress levels, bring on not honoring boundaries, bring on all these things, and starting to crack under all of that. And for a lot of people in my life to go like, I think you should go back on your medication. Like, don't you think you should go back on your medication? Like like you seem like you're not really coping. And feeling very so proud of myself in this time that I went back to Lisa, who helped me with the transition. And I was like, I'm not coping, and I'm not taking psychiatric medication to mask the fact that I'm not coping. Like, we need to figure out what is going on inside. And so I'm getting a whole delivery tomorrow. I'm getting tissue salts, magnesium, skeletonium, like all the magic potions to support my energy field, to support my systems. But why I'm bringing this up now is I want to remind women that there's a very big difference between ritual and routine. Ritual is something that we do because it deeply serves us and deeply nourishes us. And it might happen to be something that is the same every day because it continues to serve you. But I think it's a good reminder that what served you 5 months ago, 5 years ago, even if they are positive, helpful, nourishing practices, might not be relevant to your state of being now. So where I'm going, like, I'm doing all the things. I'm eating super healthy. I'm getting my naps in. I'm going swimming in the ocean. I'm doing this, this, and this. Yet none of this is holding me. And so I've had to actually take a step back and go, okay, but where does my support come from now? And how as a woman can we start being okay with not having everything to be the same 24-hour schedule every day? How can we start opening our eyes to seeing like that is not serving us?
Yeah. That's so lovely how you've said that.
Mm.
When you first said ritual and routine are different, I wanted to say no. But then, listening to you, that is such a good point. You have to change your routine every 6 months. It can't be the same forever. And that was an Ayurvedic doctor who I was working very closely with. I was teaching him asana and pranayam. Um, and yeah, he even suggested, why would you do the same thing you did 6 months ago? Your cells are constantly changing, your spirit is constantly evolving. Like, you're not the same person you were 6 months ago. Why would you do the same thing for 6 years or take the same medication for that long? But also, yeah, part of my morning routine is, at the moment, ashwagandha, lion's mane, and skeletonium. When you said it there, I was like, that's the thing I forgot. I have got my little concoction, and I didn't need it before the last 2 weeks. It's only now I've started to be like, okay, we're in this Chinese dragon yang. Yeah, it's full on. Like, take the
It's
supplements that
it's
help
so
you.
full on. The fire is here. And I mean, I don't think anyone listening to this can deny the fact that shit is crazy at the moment. Like, if you just look how everything is running, if you look at all the disruptions on so many levels and layers, and knowing that we are we are sensitive beings, and most of us are probably quite porous. And so you're not only just holding your own turmoil, but you're feeling the turmoil of the world around you, be that your immediate family or people living in your home space, be that your community, be that on a global scale. you are also feeling all of that. And so when the chaos up levels, the self-care needs to up level. And if the chaos up levels, the self-care needs to up level. And if the chaos shifts, the self-care needs to shift. And it is hard work, but the more you do it, the more you connect, I think, to your intuition, to that deep wisdom and knowledge, that you start to know what is right for you, what is good for you. And it becomes less of doing the work. Like, I'm like at this point where, oh, my Zoom is like, I've got my Zoom shows all these funny things. I've
That is
like gotten this,
so
it does the funniest thing. I can do like hearts.
I love how your Zoom celebrates what you just said, because
Yeah.
definitely it's in you.
Yes.
We've all been doing the work forever. We know what to do. The challenging
Mm,
energies at the moment are saying, can you do what you can do though? Can you?
mm,
Like, can you find
mm,
your breath in this moment instead of saying, oh, it's too much? Like,
mm,
you've got the
mm,
tools. Can you use them? I think we're really being challenged to put what we know to task now, because it's probably only going to get more intense, and we're the ones that are holding the space for all of this. Yeah.
mm. I love that you said that because, and everything, I'm gonna have to come back and I always say this, I always go back and listen to the conversations because I'm like, I've learned so much. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, there is you, you're moving out of alignment. And I have just felt this massive overwhelm where I'm just like, you know what? Actually, like I'm gonna close my business. I'm gonna sell my house. I'm gonna like get on a plane to Bali and like never come back. Like getting this massive overwhelm, and all my mentors, my teachers, my very good sisters, their messages to me aren't like, oh, basically like, oh, shame, Kath, like, what can we do? Like, maybe you should try. The answer is you have the tools to get through anything and everything. You have the tools. So don't doubt yourself. You have the tools.
Yeah, we're
Um,
definitely going to be masters in a week from now. Huh?
I mean, every 24 hours, I feel like I'm like up living to
Yeah,
do like
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it. That's it.
something
Bringing
new.
solar
Wake up the
flares
next
on.
morning and be like, hi, new version. Well done for moving through the last 24 hours.
For sure. It's really a grand rising. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question that I ask everyone that comes on the podcast. What does living an aligned life mean to you? What does that look like for you? What's a reflection on when you are in alignment? How does that feel?
For me, aligned living is adventure.
Mm,
On the road, going somewhere that I don't know. That is my most aligned life for me. I'm a mother of a teenager, so it looks a little bit different now. I'm challenged to find a new style of aligned living, and that has become the opposite routine, you know. When I'm living in adventure, there's no routine.
mm,
So routine becomes the way that I manage motherhood and running a business to live my most aligned way, for
mm,
sure. Mm.
mm, mm. Thank you. Thank you. Your first word was adventure.
Yeah, that's like that's the real me.
That's the rebel side that comes
Yeah, you
out
see,
despite
the rebels are trying to adult.
yeah. Well, I mean, I just hope we can all hold on to that inner child forever because it's such an important part in what I believe to be a very serious and very heavy world so much of the time. And to bring that adventurous and playful energy in, I think it's so important. And it's like this little fuel that you need to hold on to. You need to hold on to. You need to have, again, in this whole concept of doing the work. The work is also the light and the happy and the passionate and the crazy and the adventurous.
Laughter
So
is the best medicine.
as much as, for all of you who might be listening, who are doing the work and the hard stuff and the deep stuff and the dark stuff, remember there's a full spectrum. And so make sure to also do the work in the light.
You have to have balance of the light and the dark. Healing can be joyful. Life is joyful. Like, celebrate. Oh, I saw the most beautiful quote this morning somewhere about, oh, I can't think now. Hold on. Damn it.
Let us.
Sorry.
Let's hope it
Oh,
drops.
yeah. Like, I want to go look at the memes that I saved. You're gonna have to edit this out.
Oh, funny. Yeah, I think it's super important to remember that, and that we, also just get off our own backs a little bit sometimes. And I think, how you've beautifully said is you can really find that when you start to live with more cyclical awareness, giving yourself the space to breathe, to rest, to laugh, to do it all, experience it all. Um,
Totally.
Lovely. Please tell us a little bit about the current program that you are running and where people can find you and who should be contacting you for this right now.
So, at the most basic level, I train facilitators in cyclical awareness. So, even if people have no cyclical awareness themselves, I will train you around cyclical awareness, but at the same time, I'll train you how to facilitate that space for others, because I feel I can't do one without the other. So that is our most basic She Academy facilitator training. It's powerful. It has womb wisdom and blood wisdom, and it has rituals and practices. It has facilitation and space holding skills. It's got business marketing skills. And it's got a self-mastery section, how to deal with yourself when you're holding these spaces. So it's like a master space holder thing for yourself, but at the same time, you can offer it to other people. So we've got that launching now in March. And then next month, I've got my next round of menstruality mentorship pods, and that is the business side of things. So you're a facilitator of a wellness space, and you need a supportive. You don't want to be a solopreneur. You want to get some. You want to expand your business within a community of women who are doing the same thing for themselves, and we're doing it in a cyclical aware way. So therefore, it's the menstruality mentorship pod. So I give you mentorship to expand your business, and we do it through cyclical aware living. And one of your questions was around a case study, and yeah, we did have that within the She Academy, of this lady who was very burnt out in her autumn and was trying to relaunch her business. And everything just fell so flat, because that is not the time that we have the energy or the glow to be like putting things out there. It's the time to just go within, settle, let things settle, as you say. And we worked with her to come into working in harmony with cyclical awareness to relaunch her things again. And now she's flying. Now her soul space is everywhere. I mean, her classes are full. Her marketing is amazing. She knows when to post. She knows when to take a rest. And she's got the support of the entire community. So, yeah, that's an amazing space that just birthed itself last year.
Beautiful, beautiful. And what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So on Instagram, you can go to _she_academy, or my personal page, one word, Janaki Ashira.
Okay. We'll put all of that information in the show notes. So those who are listening or watching, you can just go, we'll have all the links there, any ways to contact Janaki. We could go on forever. Thank you so much for such an enriching conversation. I mean, for me personally, I feel like if no one ever hears this podcast, you have deeply touched my heart and soul. So thank you for
Aw.
that. And yeah, thank you just for your time and for sharing.
Thanks, Kathleen, for having me here. I love these podcasts and I would love to do them much more. So I'm really, really grateful when the opportunity comes up. I like to talk about things that I love, you know.
Mm.
So
We're gonna
this
wait for
is
the She Academy podcast to launch.
ah yes, and you will help me with how to question people on things. All right, thanks, Kathleen. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you. And thanks so much to everyone who has watched this conversation, those who have listened. As always, we are not separate from you. We are not here and you are listening. We are all right next to one another. So if you have questions, this is your chance. Reach out, send us an email, send us a DM on Instagram. Keep in mind that these are the conversations that we love to have. And if we can't support you or help you with your question, between the two of us, we will know someone who can. So please, there's no such thing as a stupid question. And yeah, thanks for listening. And I look forward to having you all back for episode 24. Much love and have a beautiful day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Aligned Living Podcast. We hope you found inspiration, insight, and a fresh perspective on your journey towards holistic well-being. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, your feedback fuels our mission to bring you valuable content that aligns with your life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and feel free to reach out with your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future episodes. We would love to hear from you. But until next time, take good care of yourself, embrace the present moment, and remember you are your own healer. Thank you for being a part of our community. Goodbye for now.